I like spaceships. I like space. And I really like the planet Mars. I've been playing Starfield a lot recently, and a bit of an unpopular opinion, but just between you and me, I really like that game. That got me into the mood to build a diorama with a spaceship and Mars. So that's pretty much what I did, and guess what? You can even watch me build that diorama. Have fun! This time I wanted to build a smaller and more minimalistic diorama, so I only needed a canvas MDF board, a small gesso board, and some electric components like a tiny LED and a power supply with a switch. All in all, that's not a lot of space to build a space diorama with a whole planet, but that's intentional because I didn't want to build the miniature Mars. No, I wanted to draw it with oil pastels. Which was pretty new to me because I wasn't very experienced in drawing with oil pastels, but it is a lot of fun and, to be honest, not very hard to do. But first I needed to cut the MDF board into the right size because it was a little bit bigger than the gesso board. So I took the measurements and cut the MDF board into the correct size. After that, it was already time to start drawing the background with the planet Mars. For the planet, I used a 50mm miniature base as a template. Then I took a red oil pastel and filled about 3/4 of the surface with that color. The remaining area of the planet's surface was filled with a black oil pastel. And yes, I know what you're thinking right now, it looks like a 4-year-old drew that. But just hang on a minute and wait for the finished drawing. To make the planet look like a planet, I took a paper towel and folded it like 1,000,000 times. And then I took that folded paper towel and started to blend the colors together, which worked surprisingly well. This was the second time ever that I used this drawing technique, and when I first used it, it was just mind-blowing. To see the transition from a drawing of a child to an art piece of Picasso was just unbelievable. I know it's a bit of a stretch to compare my art to Picasso's, but please just let me have this moment, okay? Thank you. After that, I cut pieces of masking tape to match the round shape of the planet, and then I put that onto the planet, so I could finish the background. To draw the vastness of space, I used a blue oil pastel and again a black one. Then I did the same like before and took a paper towel to blend these colors together. I left a small area at the bottom of the canvas empty because this is where I wanted to glue the canvas to the gesso board later on, and the glue would just stick better without any paints on it. And now it was finally time to reveal the whole drawing, and I was very happy with it. I also wanted to add some details, so I took a white pastel and a white gel pen to draw some stars into the black background. For the final touch, I thought that a comet would also look pretty cool. And it did look cool. Because oil pastels never really dry, I used a matte varnish to, more or less, seal the paint. I applied the varnish outside, of course. While the varnish was drying, I started to build a tiny spaceship that is on its way to Mars. For that I used 2 different sized plastic tubes, one tube with the inner diameter of 4mm and the other tube with an outer diameter of 4mm. A fuel tank from Warhammer 40k miniatures, which I would use to make the nose of the ship. A yellow LED that serves as the engine's flame, and a brass rod which holds the ship in place. The overall size of the ship was about 2 centimeters, so I cut a piece off of the bigger tube in that length. Then I took the tube with the 4mm outer diameter and cut off a 1 cm long piece of that. This piece will hold the LED and will also serve as the engine. 4mm diameter was ideal because I could slide it into the bigger tube and then it would sit there perfectly. I drilled a hole into the tubes for the brass rod and also the wires that will go from the LED to the power supply. Then I connected 2 wires with the LED and also put some heat rings on the bare connections. This wasn't really necessary, but the brass rod and the LED connections would sit pretty close together after assembling, so I was worried that those would touch and short out the whole circuit. Better safe than sorry. I sanded down the edges a little bit for a cleaner finish, and after that I glued the whole ship together with super glue. To glue the canvas to the chassis I used hot glue. And then I used my power drill to drill a hole into the chassis for the brass rod and the wires. For a cleaner look, I wanted to wrap the wires around the brass rod, but that was pretty annoying doing that by hand, so I had the brilliant idea of using my power drill for that. And it went just like a charm. Sometimes I'm just a genius. To really hold the wires in place, I used a little bit of super glue. Now it was time to prime the spaceship, and I also wanted to paint the brass rod with a black primer. So I used some rattle cans outside because I was too lazy to use my airbrush. Then I finished the electrical part of that build, so I glued the power supply with the switch in place with hot glue, as well as the whole spaceship assembly. All left to do was to solder the wires together and put on some heat rings. For the final paint job, I used a cheap black acrylic craft paint and painted the base and the edges of the canvas with it. Here I had to be careful not to accidentally paint the canvas and ruin the whole drawing. With a metallic miniature paint, I painted the engine and the nose of the ship. Here I figured that some kind of a big antenna would be great on top of the nose, so I took a tiny piece of a toothpick and glued that on the nose of the ship. And I painted that in a metallic color as well. After the paint job was done, the diorama was finished. I hope you enjoyed my little journey to a different planet, and as always, if you want to see more stuff like this, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below and subscribe. Alright, thank you for watching, have a good one, cheers.